Lesson 2.2, Deriving Short-Run Aggregate Supply. To look at the production side of the economy, let us start off with defining two time frames, short run versus the long run. Within the short run and the long run time frames, we have two types of prices. Goods and services prices. This means the prices for the goods and services that we tend to buy. For example, say food, shelter, entertainment, clothing, things that we buy for final consumption. But we must have also paid input prices or factor prices because these products have to be produced. The factor price that we would focus on would be wages, the wages that we paid to workers. Of these two sets of prices, we argue that factor prices, such as wages, tend to be more rigid than goods prices. Why is that the case? Because very often workers tend to sign a wage contract for say 6 months or 12 months or even longer. That would actually guarantee us a particular fixed wage for that duration. So wage contracts or wages tend to actually be quite fixed for the duration of the collective agreement. That we have agreed to. What defines short run? If we operate within a short run time frame, we say that at least one set of prices is fixed. In this case, input prices or factor prices are basically production costs. Related to labor are fixed. This will not stay fixed forever because the wage contracts do expire. Once they expire, all prices, goods and services, as well as input, all prices will now become flexible. And then we say we're in the long run time frame. For this lesson, we want to focus on the short run aggregate supply. Where does the short run aggregate supply come from? Recall from the previous lesson that GDP can be defined as income approach, and from income we have wages, profits, depreciation, minus subsidies, plus indirect taxes. We can just rewrite this equation by dividing both sides by y. What we would get here is, suppose wages are actually fixed by definition in the short run. Depreciation is also fixed. Subsidies, indirect taxes are also fixed. If the price level rises, given that the production costs are constant for per unit of output that we produce, this means our profit per unit of output would now be higher. As the price level rises, profit per unit would start to rise because the cost per unit stays constant. The firms would most likely want to increase their production. Graphically, what this would look like is the general price level on the vertical axis, consumer price index or GDP deflator. Y on the horizontal axis, my GDP, how much we produce. The higher the price level, the firms taking advantage of constant wages for each worker that the firms would hire. Short run aggregate supply curve will be positively sloped because the higher the price level, the profit is higher, the more we would like to produce as firms. What changes will shift the short run aggregate supply? Let's draw the graph once again, P and Y. With my initial aggregate supply curve from the previous page, let's call this A as 0. A rise in wages, when wages can become flexible, will increase my labor costs. Increase in labor costs, that means aggregate supply curve will shift to the left. Why would this be the case? Let us just pick a particular price level to begin with. Let's call this Y0 and P0. If the wages start to rise and the price level suppose is actually not changing, this means higher labor costs. I cannot actually afford to produce as much, hire as many workers, if my price level cannot increase. I would end up producing less. Therefore, a rise in production costs will shift my aggregate supply curve towards the origin. I supply less. A drop in wages will cut my costs. Even with the same price level that I can sell my product for, because I pay less to my inputs, I will be able to supply more, and hence my aggregate supply curve will shift to the right, an increase in supply. What happens if the price of crude oil or gasoline start to rise? Crude oil, very much like labor, is also a main source of input. The result is very similar to our first example, except that this is now the rise in the price of oil. Aggregate supply will now also shift to the left because for delivery, the firm now actually has to pay a lot more because of the rise in the price of gasoline. Other changes besides input prices, such as technology, the size of the labor force, education or productivity level of the workers, would also tend to shift my aggregate supply. A good case scenario, an improvement in any one of these, will tend to shift the aggregate supply curve to the right, because this would mean this is an increase in my production capacity. This is an increase in my aggregate supply.